Okay, so um, so I wanted to talk about touch on something related to the last video, and I noticed some people mention in the comments talking about beliefs. So I thought I'd talk a little bit about that. I guess in my experience, there's different levels of belief, because belief is a kind of thought experience, and there are a lot of more subtle, more felt beliefs in the felt level that might not take the form as an obvious thought narrative. And then there are the narratives that spring from those beliefs that might turn into descriptions and concepts and so on. But underneath that, there's something felt, there's something energetic, there's something deeper. That any thought can be a belief, and it's usually a belief is a limitation or a position that limits the unknown, the unknowable, to something tangible, something limited, something dualistic. And it's usually about something is this way or that way, this or that, polarities. Something's not this, something is this, either or. Even when it doesn't seem like that. A concept pointing to a truth. That kind of belief suggests separation, assumes separation. Anything knowable assumes separation. Anything that can be communicated directly with language or thought about directly in the mind. You could say it's a form of separation, and I made the point frequently on this channel many times to say that what I'm talking about isn't something that I know, isn't a belief. Isn't something that can be understood, isn't a truth, it's not a truth. It's nothing that's tangible in the sense of the conceptual mind, or the one who relates to it or thinks about it. But these hidden beliefs are sneaky. They're very sneaky. Like the thoughts will just seem like the way it is until they're unhidden, until they're seen for what they are. And like I said, there's a deeper layer of belief that feels, that's a feeling energy that is trickier to let's say bring into clarity, because it's more subtle, it's more less definitive, less conclusive, less formed, less obvious. So as I talk about beliefs, I'm not trying to communicate a concept about beliefs, a belief about, about beliefs. Any sort of conceptual knowing that points to beliefs as something tangible, as something this or that, as something that can be identified and captured. Because it doesn't seem like the important part about this. The important part is not something that I can really describe. It's not something that I can really point to and say, okay, this belief is this. Look out for this belief, and then when you see it, you'll know what it is, and then you can just drop that, because it's just not like that. Of course, it's not like that. It's more at the feeling level. It's like an energetic movement, an energetic appearance, reaction, holding on to something. Some beliefs kind of give us stability. You can kind of depend on them to formulate a seemingly satisfying world or idea about how I relate to the world, but the belief itself is full of uncertainty, full of dissatisfaction, because it's not certain, because it's a thought. The thought is never certain. That's why it moves so much. That's why it struggles so much. That's why the thinker struggles so much, because it's just not certain. It's not satisfying. It feels like it's full of holes. It feels like it's not stable. It feels like it's missing something. And if there's one thing I could suggest that might be helpful, is that you don't need belief. You don't need to believe in anything, any thought. Belief isn't needed. But don't take that on as a belief. Don't take that on as something conclusive, that, okay, I've got this now, I know that. You don't need beliefs, end of, period, and then that's it. It's not like that. It's the continual, let's say, looking. It's a continual exploration. Exploration of the unknown. And let's say the further we go into this unknown, the less these beliefs have a hold on us. The less we need to resist something by believing in something else, or resist this by adopting and holding on to a belief. Maybe ask, what is it that doesn't require belief? What is it that's beyond doubt? And then look into that. So I would suggest that it might not be helpful to take anything I say as a belief, and just to reinforce the point that I don't have a clue what I'm talking about in that way. In a way, I'm not talking about anything that that's tangible in the sense of the mind. I'm not talking about a way something is or isn't, even though I'm limited to use language that kind of seems like I'm talking about that. I'm not saying that anything's good or bad. I'm not saying that anything isn't right fundamentally. I mean, these have all been ways that I've felt. These have all been my experience before. But what I'm pointing to ultimately isn't any of that. It's again, for the millionth time, it's the trying to talk about something that to the mind is a paradox is until that is felt, until that becomes clear and experience in your felt sense of this, the mind will continue to scramble, and that will seem very real. Beliefs, thoughts will come through the back door and, transform themselves into a spiritual context, but it's just the same thing again. It's the same thing again. So you're going back and back. Every time you go back, you notice and let go of whatever thought is coming up, whatever belief is coming up, and eventually there's none left. But they do keep coming. As soon as you bite, as soon as you follow that, as soon as you buy into that. And the sign of that is, if it's not obvious how it feels, so if the sign of that is it feels restrictive, it feels like trying to understand something, trying to get something, holding on to something, an opinion, a belief, a concept that feels like the way it is. It feels like this is right, this is true, this is the way it is, or this is not the way it is, and I should avoid this, I should resist this, this is bad. That feeling, you become familiar with that feeling, and that'll be enough, maybe. But it's always this or that. It's always is and is not, either or, truth and not truth, existence, not existence, real or unreal. Don't know if I said that already. Always dual, always separated, always limiting. Once the flavour of the what's not limited, what's unlimited, what's non-conceptual, unknowable is felt, is clear, then that's all you need. And it's obvious that you don't need to talk about, although I talk about it, but it's obvious that it doesn't need to be talked about, that it's too real, in a way, so to speak. It's too self-confirming, it's too obvious. What do I not need to think about right now? What doesn't disappear if I stop believing and stop thinking? Try it in your own experience. What about this is still this when I don't think, when I don't believe a thought? That's all it is. That's it. That's it. Simple. Easy to say that, but the mind makes it complicated, but it's very, very simple. Too simple. It's very obvious when there is belief there is identification there in whatever narrative. It becomes very obvious, let's say, for yourself, but also when it's observed in other people. it becomes very obvious. Give me 2 seconds here. It becomes very obvious. It becomes more and more obvious what is a thought and what is a belief. And it becomes easier to let it go. And then letting go at some point becomes automatic. There's no effort in it. There's no trying hard in it. There's no confusion. There's no uncertainty. There's just simplicity. Almost the more, that's the problem. I've said this a few times with this channel. The problem with this channel, me talking about this, is it's almost not worth talking about. When it's taken as there's some truth in these words, because there isn't truth in the words other than this sound that I'm making, this sound that you're hearing. What is that? What is that? Forget about the content of the language. What is this? You listen to these words right now. What is this experience of hearing? What is hearing these words? Are you hearing what I'm saying? The sound, just the sound? Then do you need to, sorry, I'm multitasking here, do you need to think to hear this sound? Do you even really need to think to understand what I'm saying? Or is there something that's beyond the words that you're feeling that isn't contained? Sorry, give me 2 seconds. I'm not very good at multitasking. That isn't contained in the objective content of the words. That's what I'm pointing to. Not an idea about something, not an idea about the way it is, the greater truth. There is no greater truth. There's no awakening. There's nothing that you're gonna get. It's disappointing to hear that, but it's so much more than that. It's not as limiting as that. It's not as polarized or limited as that. Did I say that already? Probably. It's so much, it's so far beyond the concept of it or the belief in anything that none of this language, the ideas, the concepts, none of it even comes close to touching it. But the mind can't help itself grab onto these concepts and stuff and search, the searching. Is this the way it is? Is it this way? Is it not? No, it's not that way. Is this the way it is? No, it has to be like this. So on and so on and so on. How does that feel? Is that uncomfortable? Is there an uncertainty in that? Does that feel complete? Does that feel infinite? Does that feel undoubtable? What I'm talking about, there's no question. There are no questions. There are no need for questions. It's too immediate, too obvious. To the point where the belief, the concepts, the thoughts, the ideas, that doesn't matter. It's not important at all. It's not important. That's the illusion, which is an illusion. And when the illusion ceases, it's seen that it never happened. It never happened. It wasn't real in the way it felt, in the way it was perceived to be. So it really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that you get it or don't get it. just doesn't matter. It's not about that. It's about this. So I can't say with any truth that things are a certain way. I could describe what my experience has been like as a story, or I can talk from this using like dualistic framework like language to the best of its ability to point to something that's not it, but in a paradoxical way is it as well, all of it, but not limited to a concept or an idea or belief that refers to something real inside reality. I mean, if you think you're going to get this, if you think you're going to understand this, consider that I've filmed nearly 100 videos now. Most of them are, at least half an hour long. So how many hours of me talking is that? And in all those words, if you put them all together into one big compilation, in the meaning of that, there's nothing in it. There's just nothing. I don't know what I'm talking about, and it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. But can you get the flavour of what I'm pointing to that doesn't need any of that? That's what it's about. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm pointing to. And if the words are taking you away from that, if the words are pulling you into an idea about something that's not this immediate experience, then I'd suggest that there might be some buy-in to thought or belief or something like that. But there's nothing wrong with that, and no one's in control of that. You're not in control of that. Something else at a certain point, it seems like initially something else clarifies, but it can't say it's clear to the person. I can't say it's clear to that mind entity that thinks about it, other than a delusion. Because it'll pretend, it'll definitely pretend, it'll definitely reconfigure so that it still has a hold there, still has something to buy into, can maintain that identification, because it feels safe like that, whatever that mind entity is, that by the way isn't actually a real thing. At some point that becomes clear, but it was never actually there. But when it believes it's there, when that belief is there, then it feels safe in that knowing, I know this, I know that. But I'm not a person trying to communicate a message about, I know this, listen to me and then you'll know it, because it's just not like that. And that's what's so tricky. But what's also so fun about talking like this, if this was a challenge, it would be the most impossible challenge ever for the person. If I took this on as a challenge, like, I need to explain this to people and they'll need to understand what I know. Like, it's just not like that. It's just, that would be mental. That would cause me probably a great amount of suffering, like, to take on that impossible task and feel so attached to it. I can't tell you anything's a certain way. All I can do is talk from here, and wherever you are, you're here too. There's no relationship here between me talking to you and you listening to these videos. It might seem like that. There's no relationship. There's just one thing. There's just one happening. The hearing, me speaking, the sound, you, me, all the same, all, well, not all the same, but all one, not two, not separate. That's what that resonance is. That's what that feeling of when you feel it, when you feel what I'm pointing to through words, when you feel it, that's non-dual. That's the not two. That's this paradox that we are resonating inside itself, with itself, as and through itself, in a completely unknowable, mysterious way, and it's fucking weird. I had a lot of hidden beliefs that didn't become apparent until much later on. I continued to run after the so-called awakening as a pattern, as just like the remnants of that habit, momentum. But the buy-in subsided, the buy-in, that energetic holding that this is real. I feel this is real. It just wasn't as strong anymore. And there's a massive relief in just not knowing. Just accepting, letting go, and like, I don't have a fucking clue what's going on here, and I never will. It's already done, it's already understood, it's already figured out. You don't have to do it. Is that not a massive relief? And you can just chill out. Stop scrambling about, trying to find something. But if you need to do that, then so be it. There's nothing wrong with that. Maybe that has to happen for a while. Maybe the limit has to be reached with that, and that's totally fine. Maybe there has to be discontentment, dissatisfaction, suffering. That's fine. That's fine. It's resisting any of that, and resisting any of the experience, because I feel that I know that it's not right, it could be better. That resistance. The resistance is the suffering. Even the resistance to suffering is suffering. So it's sneaky, it can come through the back door, and but if I was to point to any realization that was helpful, I would say that the feeling of it, how that energetic movement, how that feels, nothing to do with specifics, the content of the thought or belief, but how does it feel? Once there's familiarity and clarity in that movement, how it feels to move and hold on to, contract, tighten up into a holding on to an idea, thought or belief or feeling or identification, then that's powerful. So I had the idea of filming a video about talking about the associated experiences and side effects of throughout this journey, but just as an entertaining thing. But I'm in kind of two minds whether or not that would be helpful, because of the way it might be taken as something to chase, something to look for, and your own experience or comparing that to your own experience or whatever, but y'all can let me know if that would be fun or not. Anyway, that'll do for now, and I'll talk to you next time.